should have had 7 that day. I missed it. I hit the post and everything, but it's just one of those days, you know what I mean? I know I didn't do anything in the days before. We were snowed in New York, so we actually stayed up pretty late a couple nights before, but just one of those days. Everything went in, and guys were like so excited. Like guys were passing up shots trying to get them. And it was one of those days that it probably didn't happen enough for me, but I'll take the 5 goals. I always ask everybody, hey, who in this room scored 5 goals in a game? Like pretty much now everybody in our room knows who did.
In your junior career, you had a kind of interesting experience that I think lends to the present day, in that you had experience in other sports, in soccer, and the idea of playing a different sport. How important do you think that is today to have a player have another discipline to think about?
Well, I think it's really important. It helped me a lot, and you know, I don't do a lot of these, so I never tell the story, but I only played soccer because my dad wanted me to. I loved soccer, but as I got older, hockey started to become #1, but you know, my dad kept telling me, just, hey man, you can't play hockey all year round, you're going to lose your passion and that kind of stuff. So near the end, I only played because my dad wanted me to, but I believe that helped me. You know, my hockey bag right after the final game was done, it went into the garage, and I wasn't allowed. I've never been to a hockey school. I never played summer hockey. All my buddies went to summer hockey tournaments. They'd come back saying, this scout's looking at me, this scout's looking at me. I was getting frustrated because I was like, man, I think I'm better than these guys. Why are all the... Hey Dad, anyone talking to you about me? And he's like, no, not really. And that's when I almost went to soccer. I have a cousin that played professionally in England, and he had a chance to go over to Italy, and it wasn't that stressful at the time because I didn't know much, but now that I look back, it was like, should I go play soccer? You know, because these guys were going to all these tournaments. So there's a catch-22. You know I have a son that plays baseball now, and I have to shut them down. I think kids nowadays, they'll play their sport. Like, you know, they'll play hockey every day if you let them. They'll go work out every day if you let them. But if they have a different sport, I think it keeps them away from the one sport. When you're young, you die hard, right? I'm a die-hard flyer, and then all of a sudden you realize, hey man, you got to be a die-hard Nordique now, and that's kind of what taught me later. Even though, you know, I felt like I did all I could for every team, I realized it could change, and you got to go back out and do it again for whoever. My dad would always tell me it's a job. You know, yeah, you have fun at it, but so I was brought up that way. No matter what, anything happened, hey, it's your job. In the #1 seed and losing to the Rangers, a couple really bad calls, but see, we never forget those bad calls, but. And they ended up beating us and going on to win the Stanley Cup that year, the Rangers, and then the next year we missed the playoffs. And it took those 2 years for us, and then we moved to Colorado. It wasn't the move to Colorado, it was kind of the kicks in the you-know-what we took the last couple of years. It was either, we knew as a group, if we don't make any hay here this year, they're going to split us up. So it kind of put our backs up against the wall a little bit. We talked about it. Like, we liked each other as a group. We felt like we knew. Didn't hurt that we got Patrick Raw and Mike Keane in a trade around, you know. We talked about it, that this might be our last kick at the can here together. So, again, like I said, the pressure of winning helped us. It was like I said about Quebec. I mean, we couldn't go anywhere without people knowing who we were. You know, the talk shows were all about the Quebec Nordiques, whether good or bad. So we went to Colorado. I remember when we first got there, we went to the Cheesecake Factory. And man, me, Joey Sakic, I think Peter, there was a bunch of us there, and we waited an hour and 20 minutes for a table at the Cheesecake Factory. And I know that, you know what I mean, we've all done that, but we were all sitting there looking at each other going, this wouldn't have happened in Quebec. They would have cleared the whole thing out for us. We were laughing about it. We were actually like timing it. Let's see when we got back. It took us an hour and 20 minutes to get a table. And no one knew who we were, but it happened quick after that, and it changed into a hockey town.
You talked about the Lindros trade, your first 2 years in the city of brotherly love. What, in those first 2 years, who were maybe your mentors or to this day, Flyers alumni that you connected with who really had an impact? My other questions related to what you said. In 2005, you acted in the movie, The Legend of Rocket Richard. What was it like acting in that 2005 movie?
I was 18, the closest guy was 25. I had a bunch. I'd have to, my first roommate was Mike Stuthers, and in training camp, kind of took me around. I mean, I had no idea what, you know, go out for lunch. What do you mean go out for lunch? Isn't your mom here to make you lunch? Like, what do you mean? Like, my mom usually brings me lunch. No, we got to go out and eat now. But Mike Stuthers was one, and he coaches against us with the Ontario Ray now. Keith Acton, first roommate. I'd have to get Keith Acton, Ronnie Hextall too. Ronnie Sutter. There's a bunch, like the leadership there, like for me being the one young guy, Scotty Mellenby, man, there's so many. There's a lot of good ones. Now that I named one, I don't want to miss any. Derek Smith. I had a bunch, that's the one thing I had, a bunch of role models with Billy. A lot of them. What was the other one?
The movie, you played Elmer Locke, who's a Hall of Fame player for the Montreal Canadiens, one of the great players of all time. And in the movie about Rocket Richard, which, how many of you have seen that? Have you seen the movie The Rocket? You really should find it, because it really is a fantastic description, not only about how the Montreal Canadiens became such iconic people in Quebec, but how they were part of the revolution in Quebec to get away from, in part, the Catholic Church. There was they called it I think it was the Quiet Revolution, where the Catholic Church's role in the community lessened a little bit. They started to rebel against some of those strictures, and about how the Montreal Canadiens were kind of a rallying point around Quebec people feeling maybe like second-class citizens around folks from Ontario. It was a very interesting movie, but you played Elmer Locke. What was it like to do that?
Well, learning the story that I didn't know was great. I actually had a bigger part. I was supposed to be there for like 30 days, but we just had our third kid, and I was like, hey, I got to work out. They got me places to work out. I worked at Patrick Waugh was the team president there, so I could work out. But I only went for 11 days. I was supposed to be there for 30 days. I wish I would have done the whole thing, because I had a lot bigger of a part, but being in a movie is a different ballgame. Like, I mean, there's a lot of hours, man. I did not realize that it's morning till night until they get what they want. I mean, there is overtime pay, but I mean, I said I'd rather keep you can keep the overtime pay. I'd rather get home a little earlier, but a lot of hours. But like Dan was saying, I learned part of the story that I didn't know. I mean, obviously my dad told me about the Rocket. I wasn't old enough to watch him, but heard stories. But what a crazy, all that stuff. What a crazy thing he had to go through. So the reason why I really did it, I didn't want to, was out of respect to the Montreal Canadiens and to the Rocket, and I knew my dad would want me to do it. So that's the only reason why I did it. Like 11 days out of the summer doesn't sound like a lot, but when you have 3 kids and they're all this big, it's pretty hard. But that's the reason why I did it. I'd have, probably known my dad would have wanted me to do it.
They did a really great job with the movie, I think. And by the way, they made you cut your hair too.
Oh yeah, well I knew I was in trouble when they came in. They said, "Hey, you're gonna have to cut your hair." I go, "I don't care, whatever." I go, "Medium, right?" Yeah, medium. So first day you walk in, and that's the other part about movies. If you're an extra or whatever, like one of the main parts, so there'll be a couple extras in there. Once you walk in, they get up and leave, and I go, "No, that's all right, finish." He goes, "No." Like it's a weird, but it was kind of difficult. But so I remember going in, and everybody scattered at one point. And I was like, you're looking at yourself in the mirror. There's people putting makeup on you, right? So I'm paying attention. Like, I'm like, what's going on here? All of a sudden, I look over, and there's this. He told me he's the director of the movie, and I didn't know I was that quick. I go, this has got to be about my hair, isn't it? And he goes, we need it short. Because they had told me before that it was just going to be medium. I go, I don't care. Just do whatever you got to do. I don't care. But I knew I was in trouble when the director sat beside me. And the weird thing was, everybody scattered. He'd come in the room, but you know the way I am. I was like, hey, I can't remember what I called him, but I was like buddies with him. He'd come over and give me high fives and stuff, and everyone couldn't believe it. But I knew I was in trouble when the director sat beside me and the hairstylist. I knew, but hey, man, I was okay with it.
I think he looked great. I think the movie was great. You should check it out.